most of the time, it will be like, this is what I'm taking. Ta, ta, ta. A movement where I do this, maybe for you, it's gonna be all the way completely. You're gonna start now trying to be even more with the music. Rubix is extremely good at introducing his round. What I mean by that, in other words, is all right, so in this deep dive rounds, we're gonna watch Rubik's at BTM Experience. And there's a lot going on. As you already know, when it's Rubik's, yeah, this guy moves a lot. So we're gonna have a lot of things to cover. And let's go for it. Okay, so right from the get-go, to me, Rubix is extremely good at introducing his round. What I mean by that, in other words, is really good at hooking you right from the get-go, and you're like, okay, what is going to happen, right? Based on how he's starting his round, you can tell he's into some sort of a scenario already. And in this round, it's exactly that. Just having a really confident posture and just doing this and start playing with the music. And you're like, okay, all right, what's next? What's going to happen next? So let's see what's going to happen next. Again, to me, these are the type of things that require a strong belief in yourself. Because right here, we have another pattern interrupt where he started his round. Something that he knew was happening was gonna happen in the music. He stopped, turned to the public, and just say literally what was saying in the music. And the way that he does that, it's almost like he went out of his round and then come back straight in the same type of charisma that he had when he started. He break the pattern, come back again like nothing happened, right? And yeah, this is to me strong confidence to be able to do that in the moment and make it part of the whole round, make it part of the whole story. Let's keep going. All right, so another thing as well that I want to mention here is that is one of the dancers who are really good at showing you exactly what is taking in the music, right? So some dancers could be like that tit, tit, tit would be maybe flowing with that tit, tit, tit. But Rubik's, most of the time, it will be like, this is what I'm taking. Ta, ta, ta. That's the thing, right? And you can't be confused and be like, okay, what is he taking right now? I'm not sure. No. For him, most of the time, the musicality that he's taking is explaining exactly, this is it. Can you hear it? Good. See it in my body. That's what he does. Yeah. So all these parts, again, very sharp in terms of what he's doing with the music and what is exactly taking. Now, what makes it also special is the texture of his movements. As you already know, I mean, maybe most of you who are watching that video knows Rubik's, but if you don't, then one of the things that that is to me a gift for him is his way of moving. His way of moving is not accessible to everybody because his range of motion and mobility is just remarkable. So therefore, is fully using that when he's playing with the music as well. So he rarely go for simple, or maybe he will go for simple for one or two or three counts, and then he will finish with something like, oh my gosh, how did it move like that? You see what I mean? So this is another way to add an extra layer of complexity to his execution, because he's hitting precisely, but also he can hit precisely with difficult type of movement. Also, he's a great risk taker, and I would even say that he knows how to calculate risk, because when you look at him dancing, you can be like, oh my gosh, he's throwing his movement all over the place in a controlled way, except when he's jumping on his knees like that. I don't care how controlled this is on a regular basis. I'm guessing this is probably not good for his knee in the long run. But beside that point, most of the time when he's jumping or turning and things like this, you can see that he's actually having a lot of control in what he's doing. And I'm guessing one of the ways that he's able to do this, and I think is even when he's practicing, is almost always dance like that, to go through those pathways as often as possible and be very spontaneous with them. And over time, they just become new patterns. They're just difficult patterns, but they're still new patterns. They're just they're just part of his natural way of moving, right? And because sometimes when I watch him dancing, and then all of a sudden you see him just go with his body. It's very spontaneous, but it doesn't miss. It doesn't miss. Yes, sometimes you will fall down and things like that, but it's for the type of movement that he's doing, you would expect him to be way more messy with the music, but not that much. Not that much. Yes, there are some moments that it can be a bit more static. There are some moments we could say that, yeah, but now it's a bit too much in terms of, turning and things like that. But hey, that's his way of expressing himself, and he does it. If he decides to do it this way, at the end of the day, that's his choice. But in terms of the execution of it, he knows what he's doing, even when it feels like messy, right? So that's one of the things that I really like about him, the fact that he's such a risk taker, and at the same time, you could tell that, you could feel like, you could think, oh, it's not, these are not calculated risk, but they are. So let's keep going. Really nice. So overall, what I see as a takeaway from this round and the things that I would like to make practical is how can we become more risk taker in our rounds with no injuries. So basically, challenging your range of motions, right? The range of motion that is slightly above the average of what you would be doing, you know? And being able to do that in a way where you are challenging your body, but not necessarily taking too much risk where you could get injured, right? Because there is also a lot of benefits of moving in a way that is a bit more awkward or more unexpected, right? And that's what make his delivery so unique as well. Because yes, he's got great hearing, right? Just he's very sharp with the music. But if he was doing this with very only simple movements, it would still work, right? But not like that. It wouldn't be Rubik's anymore. And I believe every single dancers also have that kind of unconventional way of moving that is a bit more bizarre, strange. It's just that many of us don't necessarily tap into it or tap into it as often as we would like to, right? So this is the things that I'd like to see how we can make this practical in our dance, all right? So let's be a bit more strange. Let's be a bit more bizarre. All right, let's go for it. All right, so now the goal is to play with the music precisely, but at the same time using, I would say, unconventional type of movement. What do I mean by that? Movement that looks a bit, different, not the most usual ones. And one of the best ways for me to work on this is to get into a state of mind where I don't necessarily need to think about doing different type of movement. But if I only do certain thing with my body naturally will go with some different type of movement than usual, okay? And what I mean by that is edges. So basically, if I told you, for example, to just walk, okay? So if I'm walking towards you like this, right? And I'm in the street and, walking towards you like that, right? Even though every single person has their own natural way of moving, right? And you have your own natural way of walking, you have also your natural voice, right? All these things, you did not work on them. They're just part of the way that you behave, okay? Now, if I walk like this, then even though I do have my natural way of walking, but it doesn't really stand out much compared to any other person who's walking in the streets, okay? But if I now tell you to walk, but you're gonna try to push your range of motion much more and go to the edges when you start walking. So for example, instead of walking normally, right, let's say you want to emphasize the movement even more and push to the edges, right? So for example, now I'm walking like this, for example, right? Here, here, here. All of a sudden, this is not a normal way to walk, not on the street, right? So just by doing this, now if I ask 3 people to do the same thing, meaning don't try to do the same movement as me, the exact same movement, but when you are crossing, right? When you are crossing, I want you to go to your edges, right? And push and really expand your movement as much as you can. Guess what will happen? If I do this, what will naturally happen, you're gonna start seeing even more the natural way of moving of each person. Simply because they are pushing much more, they are expanding their movement. And the more they expand their movement, the more you start seeing the individuality of each person. You see what I mean? So that's the power of tapping into your full range of motion to just transform the way that you are moving and deliver, I don't know, maybe something extra. You see what I mean? And this is what we're gonna apply to try and move in a more unconventional way, just by pushing more, you know, expanding way more our movement. And then you're gonna start looking a bit different. Does that make sense? Right? And we wanna do this while also playing with the music precisely, okay? But the first step to work on this is to simply work on your range of motions. And how you do this, you're gonna start just playing with every single joint you have in your body. Because these joints, you want to unlock them as much as possible, right? And the beauty of this is your body will tell you automatically what are your limits. Some people, like Rubik's, they can go crazy with some range of motion. For example, if you want to go like this, me, for example, right, I'm gonna stop here. But Rubik's, it can go all the way, right? So I do have to respect the fact that my body is telling me, hey, this is where you can go. So basically, you want to respect your limits. But the fact that each range of motion is different based on who's doing it, therefore you will automatically kind of still get the same benefits of the exercise by tapping into your full range of motion, okay? So every joint will be the first thing that we try to unlock, right? Here, hips, all right? Yes? And basically, you really want to just play with your joint and move however you feel like it, right? There's no right or wrong here. You're just exploring your joint, right? And you see, just by moving this way, whether you like it or not, it starts to be different. And if you start doing the same, it's gonna look different as well, right? Because we don't have the same range of motion. You might go further than me, right? A movement where I do this, maybe for you it's gonna be all the way, completely. You see what I mean? And that's how you start tapping into your, even a deeper level of your movement identity, okay? Because you are using all of it. And you are not just limiting yourself, right? And you can do this safely, okay? So, first step, I'm gonna play the music and I'm just going to explore my body. Explore my body. I'm not trying to hit things, right, in the music. I'm just exploring. And most of the time, I love doing this on chill song, right? Chill song. Don't go crazy yet, okay? Let's go for it.
And I just getting old, getting old. Showing you our love is going, I just getting old. I'ma make breakfast, going, I just getting old, getting old, getting old, getting old, getting old, like, yeah. Showing you our love is going, I just getting old. Shit is getting old. Why you waste time for? We all Money, all your love, now we getting dope.
Yes. So, sorry, just this. Just this. Simple. You are playing like this, chill music, and it's almost like you are dancing and stretching your body at the same time, right? And you keep on doing this. You keep on finding new pathways, different ways that you can play with this approach, right? And you keep on just playing, right? Do not judge what you are doing. It doesn't matter. As long as you are going to the edges, right? And exploring them to the fullest, you are getting the benefit of that exercise. You see what I mean? And then once you've been doing this as much as you can, and you explore like this, right? You will feel like your body starts to open up. You know, you can do that maybe, you know, for just 20 to 30 minutes, only moving this way, only moving this way. And then naturally, you're gonna start now trying to be even more with the music, okay? Just try to make a more normal round just with this, right? So you play the music, you start going to your edges, but this time, maybe sometime you're gonna break it. Maybe sometime you're gonna hit certain things, you know? Maybe sometime also you're gonna create contrast by going a bit smaller, and then you go big. You see what I mean? But you just, but still, the majority of your rounds, you're gonna use full range of motion, okay? Let's see how it looks.
Cigarettes and baby mamas that sip in. Why the way the world gets heavier. Waters when they try to feel barriers. Talking here, building hysteria. That's why my young niggas don't care now. We rather rock down the wrist web and the bear butts. They rather have us locked down than the bear guts. Unfair, fair.
All right. So when you are doing this, keep in mind, do not judge your movement, because if you're not used to this, you're gonna end up being, you know, strange and doing some bizarre type of movement, and you're like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Why am I moving this way? And that's what you want. Do not judge it, right? But the thing is, unfortunately, often we do not access the full range of what we can do with our body. And then we either say, oh no, I cannot move this way, or we simply never give it a try, okay? And we are missing a lot from this, you know? And again, it doesn't have to be the full range of motion of someone else, right? It can be your full range of motion. And maybe your full range of motion is not that big, but that's okay too. Because at least now you get into the habit of going there and play with that, right? And when you are doing this, don't think like, oh, I have to do like a crazy performance or a crazy round. You see, for example, the way that I was dancing here, I was mainly focused on playing with the music, yes, but also, most importantly, trying to just keep on going to my range of motion and just explore my body, right? Yeah, it doesn't have to look like always perfect, yes, but at least you are getting into the habit of tapping into your edges, right? And just by doing this alone, I can promise you, you're gonna start developing much more character in your movement, right? And again, it's okay if at first you don't feel comfortable with it. Just stick to it so that at least you now give you a chance to tap into your full range of motion. All right? Good. So I hope that helped. And if you want to be able to work on these things in a much more structured way, where I will be able to guide you as well, so click on the link below to start your free trial with the BTM membership. And hopefully I'll have the chance to meet you there. All right? Take care. Talk soon. Bye.